I was 16 when I first became mayor of my town. Now, don't get too excited. I was just youth mayor. My name is Giorgio Corti, and I'm an international student from Italy. I live in a small town called Oggiano, close to Lake Como. Oggiano put together a program for high school and middle school students to be part of the public administration of the town. I was one of these students. And when I signed up to run for youth mayor, my decision wasn't fueled by grand visions of community service. I was young, curious about politics, and I saw it as a challenge. My motivation was far from selfless, and yet the consequences that followed brought my community together. So what if I told you that a small, non-altruistic act like mine could foster altruism in our communities? Well, isn't that strange? Isn't altruism supposed to be selfless? So today I would like to share with you why I think that any act, regardless of motivation, could be a good act. One of the main projects I completed during my time as youth mayor was the transformation of an unused space in Oggiano's middle school into a library. At first, I saw this as a simple task, something I needed to get done, almost like a check mark on my resume. However, as the project progressed, I started seeing the real impact of this place. I understood I was creating a space for people to grow, dream, and learn. So later, I started reflecting on the common idea that if someone does something for the so-called wrong reasons, that somehow invalidates their actions. Is that really true, though? Think about it. Professors, healthcare workers, engineers, the people that make our world moving forward. Well, some of them are motivated by the pure love and passion for their jobs. Others are motivated by financial stability and career advancements. The results are still the same, though. Buildings are being built, lives are being saved, and futures are shaped. So while the motivation of these workers may be personal, we do sometimes take actions that are purely altruistic. So let me give you an example of something as simple as a coffee. There is a tradition in Italy called caffè sospeso, which translates into suspended coffee. This tradition requires paying for a coffee in advance for someone who can't afford it. The tradition works this way. You enter a coffee shop, you order your coffee, and you order a caffè sospeso. You pay for both, you grab your receipt, and you put the other receipt into a coffee pot, a jar, right there in the coffee shop. Well, someone in the future, someone who cannot afford a coffee, may enter that same coffee shop, grab the receipt you paid for, and drink their coffee for free. Our action, our receipt, may remain untouched at first. However, over time, it has the power to come out of that jar and help someone who needs it. In essence, what we do impacts others, who in return will affect and influence even more people. And when we take action, no matter how seemingly insignificant, we can't always predict how those actions will come back to us. So what I realized is that motivation, whether altruistic, such as buying an additional coffee, or personal, such as the personal motivation of those workers, doesn't diminish the value of our actions. Because it's the actions themselves that carry the meaning. And this is why I believe we need to rethink how we view motivation. Even when driven by personal ambition, it's our actions that have the power to ripple outward and foster altruism, growth, and progress in our communities. So this brings me to my main point: the ripple effect, otherwise known as the spreading results of an event or action. Think about when you throw a rock in the water. Ripples form and become larger and larger over time. The same thing happens with our actions. Our actions, our ripples, are what connect us with the people in our communities. So you may now ask yourselves, what are the chances that my actions actually connect me to someone else? Well, to put this in perspective, think about the odds of sharing a specific trait with someone, like a birthday. If we consider there are 365 days in a year, the odds of you sharing a birthday with someone are 1 in 365, less than 1%. However, as we start adding more people into the room you're in, the odds of that happening increase drastically. With just 23 people in the room, the odds of 2 individuals sharing the same birthday exceed 50%. So in the context of this paradox, just imagine how many people you could influence with your actions. Of course, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that in a room of 23 people, you will find someone with the same birthday as you. But for sure, their odds are high. And the chances that our actions influence others are higher than we realize. Our actions can and have the power to create change in our communities. And if you still don't believe me, a research study conducted by the National Library of Medicine showed that individual success is often tied to community well-being. And think about it. When our community thrives, we thrive. At Penn State, we see this every day through the pride of being part of something larger than ourselves. And there is a specific example here at Penn State that I would like to share with you today. Thon. And for who doesn't know, Thon is the largest student-run philanthropic event in the world. Every year, Penn State students gather and raise millions of dollars for pediatric cancer research and to help families in need. There's an interesting aspect to Ton that ties into my message. Some of us may join Ton for purely altruistic reasons. They want to help, to make a difference in these people's lives. However, some of us may join Ton for not so altruistic reasons. They may want to be part of something popular on campus. Or they may want to join because it looks good on a resume. And here's the thing. That doesn't diminish the impact. Whether your motivation is personal or altruistic, the result is still the same. Millions of dollars are raised, countless lives are changed, and a culture of respect and generosity is reinforced year after year. And even those who join Ton for non-so-altruistic reasons, they sometimes find their perspective shifting. They see the faces of the people they're helping. And suddenly, they realize it's not just about them anymore, it's about the cause. So to tie this back to my experience as a youth mayor, I experienced similar dynamics. When the construction for my town's library began, I saw students and professors coming together and working for a common goal. And my perspective shifted from personal to altruistic. I became youth mayor as a teenager, deeply focused on personal ambitions. And I left my role as youth mayor as a young man, deeply inspired by the altruism one act brought out of my town. So if there is one thing I hope you take away from this today, is the following. Every action, regardless of their original intention, is a building block of community and connection. We may never see the full impact of our choices, but they're felt, reverberating across our lives. So today, ask yourself, whether you're throwing a rock out of anger or just for fun, what ripples are you setting in motion? We may judge ourselves or others for their motivation. But does it truly matter in the face of the result they bring? Thank you.